The real alternative. EQX.
This is Brooks. He owns the place. He doesn't look old enough to own a big place like this, but he is. He's from Texas. That's why we have a big picture of Stevie Ray Vaughan over there. Taught him everything he knows.
Brooks is a Houston native. Do you know what initially drove him up to the Northeast?
A car.
No. He was in the ski industry and he worked for Elan Skis. And on a day trip down here, they fell in love with it. When he was a young man, he used to go to all the nightclubs and he got to see like Otis Redding, and you should see the CDs at my house. It's like all Al Green, Otis Redding, Barry White.
He definitely was very passionate about music, and he was a tinkerer. I know that as a child he grew up a fan of ham radio, amateur radio type things, and would tinker with machinery there, and find Brooks Fashion decided to take it to the next level.
He also was a sales professional, so he understood the business side too, and he saw the opening here in town. He sort of saw the framework of how it could be built.
He also convinced the monks who are silent into leasing property on top of the mountain for an alternative radio station to broadcast. I mean, the thing that blows me away about this radio station the most is its reach. From almost to the northeast kingdom of Vermont to southwestern New Hampshire, Lake George, Saratoga, out to Cooperstown, and that's incredible. However, Brooks pulled that miracle off.
He had this burning focus to start something that he could believe would be successful, a radio station in the 1980s. There was new wave music and college rock, which is amazing, but in terms of what turned a profit, there was no proof really that was going to work. When we did hear the recordings, especially of the first hours of EQX, it just was a radio station trying to do its best. But I get the feeling that by the time late 80s, 90s alternative scene really took off, it seemed like that was the direction and that was it.
And that was all something that Brooks laid the groundwork for, the relationships that continue to this day with the major record labels, the independent record people. He put the bar at a point where there is no lowering that bar now. If we don't continue to do that, then we're letting down partners across the country that have grown to rely on EQX being a radio station that's going to break a band, play it for the first time, and get the ball rolling on it. So, you know, it all started with Brooks sometimes illegally playing music before it was allowed to be played on the air. Many cease and desist. But, you know, that really put it out there that we are going to be the first to play something.
And also, don't send it if you don't want it played.
Right.
There's a simple rule,
yeah,
too.
Yeah. I'm going to guess that his favorite role was as the engineer of the radio station. It was a rite of passage for new employees here at the radio station to get a drive up the mountain to the transmitter with Brooks. He drove like a madman. He looked at you the entire time he was driving, a very windy road.
No hands.
No hands. Fearing for your life.
He used to steer with his knees because he was
Yep.
so tall.
There's something really fun about seeing these bands who go town to town. Who knows where their mindset is? They're in this city yesterday, here today, somewhere else tomorrow. But they always seem to feel relaxed when they come here because most radio stations are in a different type of building where there's 4 or 5. And this is just an anomaly. That's all there is to it. And they take it in.
Yeah, and I think that that rings true for me too, and probably every employee that walks through the door. You just feel like you've stepped out of a whole different world into a magical fantasy kind of place. And
It's his second home.
yeah, and it carries through on the airwaves. I think it is what gives EQX its very distinct sound and vibe. This place is simply different, built by a different person.
If he wanna stay, he stays. If he wanna go, he goes. He doesn't care how he gets there, long as he gets somewhere.